I'm Julie, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you things that sell really well for me in my vintage and antique booth. I'm a vintage and antique reseller with an antique booth in a brick and mortar store. If you sell online, I hope this video also helps you. I would imagine that the things that tend to sell well for me in an antique booth would also sell well online. So stick around and I will share with you some of the things that have been really hot items for me in hopes that they will also help you boost your sales with your vintage and antique business. The first thing that is selling really well is anything with mushrooms on it. Now, we went through a period of time where this was probably when I first started selling in an antique store, which was in 2016. Things with mushrooms on them just sat for a while. I had this really awesome set of plastic Rubbermaid canisters, and I thought they were just absolutely groovy. I had them through the entire time that I had that booth at the first store for 2 years, and then I held on to them, and I put them back in my new booth in my new store in 2020, and they sold after they had been in the booth there for about a year. So things with mushrooms are definitely picking up. If you ever see any of the Sears and Roebuck canisters or other kitchenware items in the pattern Merry Mushrooms, get those because those are incredibly valuable right now and they will fly off your shelves or fly out of your online stores. Even the Pyrex pattern Forrest Fancies, which is just sort of a plain looking pattern with brown mushrooms on it. It's just a very bland looking pattern. Even that pattern is super hot right now because it has mushrooms on it. The next thing that sells really well for me are deviled egg dishes. I see them a lot in the milk glass with the gold trim. Those sell. And then I also see them in clear glass with more of a hobnail along the bottom. These glass ones are very heavy. I'll go into clear glass later in this video, but this is an example of something that sells well in spite of the fact that it's clear glass. People seem to love making deviled eggs. I've also seen people put that it could be an oyster dish on the price tag. I've only personally used them for deviled eggs, but I can see how they could be used for oysters as well. Another thing that's really hot right now is cast iron. So there's a big movement of people who are cooking with cast iron as a safer way to prepare their meals, especially way safer than pans that are coated with Teflon. So anything that's cast iron is hot right now and it's selling. I don't personally source cast iron cookingware, but I do really love these cast iron trivets. I had 3 of these in the booth and they all sold fairly quickly. If you're selling smaller items like these trivets, it would also be a whole lot easier to ship them than it would, say, for instance, a cast iron pot or skillet, because the cast iron is so heavy. Except our salt and pepper shakers, especially if there's something special. So for instance, when I got my antique booth in the store that I'm currently in, I had been shopping there for years. And these are something I bought from one of the other vendors. These just have such a cool retro font on them. And then these are also pretty special. These were a gift. They also came from the antique store where I work, and they are 1950s cat salt and pepper shakers. So anything that is eclectic or different in salt and pepper shakers does sell very well. So another thing that's sold well for me are certain handmade items. I crochet, and I have found, interestingly enough, that my crocheted toys sold really well. My favorite toy to make was a crocheted octopus, and I would just sort of like place them all over the booth in little hiding spots, and they looked really cute. Like I'd place them in a casserole dish or something just around the booth, almost like they were hiding, and they always sold really well. I did not, however, find that my crocheted hat sold very well, and I know that other people who put quilts and crocheted afghans and things of that nature in the booths do have difficulty selling those items for what they're worth. There's just so much work and hours that go into handmade items. It's hard to make a profit on them. When I was regularly crocheting, I kind of figured out that I made about 20 cents an hour crocheting because people can go buy a toy octopus from Dollar Tree for a couple of dollars, and most people are not willing to spend $18 on a crocheted octopus, even though it took me hours and hours to make, and I do think it's more special. Something that sells well is colored glass. On the other hand, clear glass, you'll see it in the thrift stores that the shelves are just loaded with it because people don't buy it. But any type of colored glass, especially pink, turquoise, greens, yellows, anything like that, uranium glass, which is green and it glows, anything in colored glass has been pretty hot for us in the antique store, and I'm sure it is also the same online. So I like to have something for kids in my booth, and I'm sure that people have mixed feelings about this because people think, well, if kids are attracted to my booth, then things are going to break. Over the years, I've actually had very, very few items break in my booth. Sometimes when a customer or a customer's child breaks something, they're really honest about it and they come to the cash register and tell us. And other times I found things that were hidden in my booth that were broken. So the person who broke it or that person's parent, if it was a child, who knows, broke it, didn't want to bring it to the cash register and just kind of like hid it behind one of my display shelves. That's only happened a handful of times. So I carry Fisher Price vintage toys. Surprisingly, one of the things that I put in there for kids that sells the best for me are Beanie Babies. And these are considered vintage now, which is strange considering they are 1990s toys. That makes me feel old when I think about the fact that the 1990s are vintage now, but they are, and I just have to remember that it's not only kids who like them, but it's also adults who were kids in the 90s who like them. So Beanie Babies sell well for me. Of course, I don't carry any statistics on who's buying them, but I'm pretty sure that adults buy them for themselves and that adults buy them for their kids. Milk glass always sells well. I like to buy it in vases when I find them. I find that for weddings, people will buy in bulk milk glass vases for the tables at the wedding reception. That's a really popular look right now, and they put flowers in the vases. But it's really fun when you can find other pieces of milk glass that are not vases, but that are more rare pieces. I had a set of 4 milk glass plates that sold recently, and they had really beautiful hobnail around the edges. I had those plates forever. Like, I think I had them since the end of 2020, and they finally sold, but I was super pleased when they sold. Something that has sold well for a long time and continues to sell well despite some evidence that things may be slowing down a little bit is Pyrex. One of the antique dealers in my store recently had a beautiful set of the primary colors mixing bowls, and they were in pristine condition, and I felt that they were a fair price. And she said that she was noticing that her Pyrex pieces were sitting for longer. I have actually noticed that too. I just wasn't sure if it was because Pyrex is cooling off a little bit, or if it's because the colors and the patterns that I currently have in my booth just aren't as desirable as some of the others. The patterns that I have in my booth right now are a little bit more of the greens, like the olive green and the earth tones, whereas the brighter colors tend to be a lot more desirable. Pyrex is still going to sell well if you can find it at the right price. The challenge is finding it. Goodwill does not put it on their shelves anymore. They put it in their online auctions and they make a killing on it. They've trained their stocking employees they've showed them what it looks like, and they have instructed them if they get any not to put it out on the shelves, but to hold on to it, and they put it in their online auctions. Sometimes you'll still find it for good prices, but most people know what they have. So you might be able to find it at garage sales for good prices, but I will say Pyrex is still hot, and I think that if you can find it for a good price and in good condition, you should get it. Something that always sells really well for me are animal figurines, and I have had good luck with mostly dog and cat figurines. I'm really into cat figurines, so these are just some from around my house that I wanted to show you, but especially if the cat has like a mid-century modern shape to it, like this guy. this beautiful amber glass too. This cat is just stunning. He's part of my home decor. And then this is also a really cool brass cat one that I have. And it also has the mid-century shape with the triangular shaped head. Of course, I already showed off my cat salt and pepper shakers. I had a really awesome Dachshund condiment server from the 1950s that was just fabulous, and it flew off the shelves. I mean, I think I had it like one day in the booth and it sold. So animal figurines, especially dogs and cats, and especially mid-century or older dogs and cats, are super hot. Next up is brass. Brass has gained a lot of popularity recently, and it's selling very well. These are a nice pair of brass candlesticks that I picked up the other day at Goodwill. I paid $3.09 each, so $6.18 for this pair. And these should sell for probably $32 to $36 for me in the booth. So these are a really nice pair. And then brass animals. Here's a nice example. I should probably shine this kitty up, but brass animals are also really popular and they sell well in the booth. And finally, Corningware sells well. You will find that people want to replace pieces that have broken from their set or their mother's set or their grandmother's set or whatever the case may be. Surprisingly, the blue cornflower, even though it's very common and you will see it a lot in the thrift stores, is still selling well for us. At least it is in Georgia. The blue cornflower is not my favorite pattern. I really like the Spice of Life pattern with all of the vegetables on it. It has mushrooms on it too. And then I like this pattern as well with the flowers on it. I found these cute little petite casserole dishes and they have these lids on them, but unfortunately they also have these strange black scuff marks all over them. When I bought these, I thought that I'd be able to get these off with a magic eraser, and the scuff marks just didn't come off. So I decided to keep these for myself. If you know of something that I could try, I've also tried oven cleaner and it didn't take it off. But if you have a suggestion, I would love to clean these up. I don't really use them, and I know that they would sell well in the booth because this pattern is not as common. So if I could just get them clean, I would love to be able to do that. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked the video and found it valuable, whether you are an online seller or you have an antique booth like I do. And I wish you the best of luck with your sales wherever you are in your journey. And if you're thinking about starting and just kind of watching videos to try to decide if vintage reselling is something that you want to do, let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. It has been difficult for me, at least, for this to be a lucrative business, but I do have friends in this business who do very well. I will say that the people who do very well have been doing this a long time, and they have more real estate in the store than I do. I have one 100 square foot booth, and the people who do the best have multiple booths throughout the store. So statistically, they're going to do better because more of the items that people pick up and buy are going to come from one of their booths. And the most successful couple at our store is a husband and wife team. And so they have a variety of items, like they're into so many different things. It's just, they have such a wide variety of items to appeal to all different kinds of customers. And that is something that I'm lacking in. I will say that my booth has a tendency to be kitchen-y, and I also like home decor, and I also like vintage toys. Primarily it's kitchen-y, so it's just what I'm into, and you have to figure out what you're into, and it's just like anything else. Your customers will find you and they will appreciate your style and the items that you choose, and eventually with time and patience you will find that this business will help you earn extra money on the side or extra money in retirement, and you will have so much fun doing it. That's my promise to you, is that is the absolute most fun thing that I think I've ever done. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.